it's wonderful. You get 15, 20 minutes on a radio show. That's a lot. But here, I can truly talk about and explore subjects. I'm picking a hair off my microphone. Why is my microphone growing hair? There's a subject I've been wanting to talk about for some time. And I've never, ever been afforded the opportunity or the forum to truly express it, explain it, and talk about it, because it requires understanding of the big picture. And that is my on again, off again, on again, off again relationship with Howard Stern. Those who are Howard Stern fans know that Howard and I at one time were very close. And even though he doesn't speak of our falling apart, our friendship falling apart, it has. And it doesn't exist anymore. And that's the thing about Howard. When he's mad at you, he talks about you on the air. When he's really mad at you, it's like you don't exist. Yet, in his truly passive-aggressive way, he continues to play the best ofs with me in it. He won't say that we haven't spoken in years and years and years, or that he's pissed off at me. But he is, and I want to talk about it because there's apologies to be made, and things need to be said, and today I'm going to say them. All right, Howard Stern. I need to start at the beginning to explain the uniqueness of our relationship, and it is unique. To this day, people constantly come up to me and say, hey, say hi to Howard, or love you on Howard, or whatever, not realizing that I haven't had a relationship with the man in many, many years. Go back to 1985, okay? 1985. Oh, thank you very much for telling me the time, computer. 1985, and I am on top of the world. I've just come off our biggest album, our biggest tour. I have money. I have a house. I'm married. I've got my first kid. My dreams have all come true. I just did the Washington thing in September of that year. And you can only imagine, what Christmas is like as a rock star. Now, when you've got money and you've got the means to express your love and adoration for people, and vice versa, this is when I start getting, video arcade machines, which were popular in the 80s, as Christmas presents, and we are, we're a big Christmas family. So it's the holidays. And as usual, we want to go into the city to see the tree at Rockefeller Center. Now I'm a rock star. Now I'm highly recognizable. And of course, I haven't learned how to lay low or be cool about it. I walk around with my hair out, platform shoes, wearing Twisted Sister colors, and wondering why with a bodyguard, and wondering why, everybody's looking at me. Of course they're looking at you, asshole. You're walking around, you got an entourage, and you're the parade just came to town. So I've since learned that, pulling the hair back, a baseball cap, and just walking around with the fam and being casual like I did in Universal Studios this week. And, people going, hey, wait a minute, is that? And, they come up and they go, hey, can I? And everybody wants a picture. And I simply say, hey, nice to meet you. I'm with the family. And they go, oh, cool, man. I get that. And 99.9% take it at that. A handshake, a hello. And total respect for the fact that I'm not parading around with bodyguards all over. I've done that, by the way, too. Come to, try to go through the theme park, because there is a certain amount of baggage, the Slinky brings when it's Dee Snider pulling it. But I've tried the, security thing, and that brings more attention. They got these giants with, wearing suits in the summertime in Florida, with radios, and you're walking through and they're trying, to be inconspicuous, cutting the line, and it's just making it terrible. It's no longer a family, experience. It's, it's the security experience. So we don't do that. Besides, security is just protecting you from me anyway. So yeah, remember I said never confuse kindness for weakness. But at this point, I'm still rockstar guy, and Suzette, me, and baby Jessie get in a limousine, and we go to New York City, where back then you could drive. They didn't have all this is pre 9/11. So they didn't have all of that security issues down at Rockefeller Center. So literally a limo pulls right up by the tree, not near the tree where it's now closed off at that time of year, but we're not. Pulls up, and Suzette and Jesse get out of the car to see the tree, and I'm how does a rock star see the tree? He rolls down the window about 2 inches and peeks out through his sunglasses. So I'm peeking out at the tree. And my wife and child looking at the tree. It's terrible, by the way. Terrible way to experience the holidays. And my driver, who I knew, says, "Hey, do you know who Howard Stern is?" I did not. 1985, I have been on the road now for years, and I am a vampire. I am, going to bed. I've been going to bed at, 6, 7 in the morning and getting up, when the sun's going down. So, Howard being a morning guy, I absolutely don't know anything about morning radio. And I go, no. He goes, oh yeah, he's on the radio here. He's got a big show. I said, oh yeah, he was talking about you today. I said, oh really? What did he say? My driver, who knows me, he goes, he was talking about how ugly you are. To which I smirk and I go, oh really? I said, yeah. I go, well, my theory is say whatever you want, just get my name right, which took Howard a very long time, by the way. He used to call me Schneider for decades. He said, yeah, Howard Stern is going to be on David Letterman tonight. I turn and look, and we are parked in front of 30 Rock. 30 Rockefeller Center is where the David Letterman, Late Night with David Letterman, was broadcast. I'd been on the David Letterman show at that point, so, they knew me. I said, really? And I look at the clock. It's 5 o'clock. This is when they film Late Night. They filmed it in the afternoon. I said, hey, you know what? Let's go give Howard Stern a taste of reality. So I get out of the car, leaving my wife and kid at the tree. I go walking in the building. Back then, again, this is before 9/11. So basically, it's like everybody's like, "Hey, Dee, what's going on, man? Come on." I said, "I'm coming up. I'm coming upstairs to Late Night." "Oh, go on up, man. Going up. Head up there." I'm walking in. The minute I hit the floor, everybody's backstage. All the producers say, "Hey, Dee, what's going on, man?" I said, "Where's Howard Stern?" I said, "Oh, he's in his dressing room over there." I said, "Great." I go over to his dressing room, kick open the door, and you motherfucker. Now, I'm like 6. Howard's tall, but I'm big. And I'm wearing my 5-inch platform shoes, my big hair. I'm gigantic. So I'm 6'7", 6'8" at this point, plus my aura. That takes something as well. I look like I'm madder than hell. Look, when I get my face going, I'm like the Zuni fighting man. People remember that from that Karen Black films from years ago, Trilogy of Terror. I'm owned! Okay. Anyway, but I come there, and in the room is this black woman and a couple of other bodies who I don't know, and 2 males, and Howard's this geek wearing rimless clear glasses, a little afro, a mustache. I think he had corduroy sneakers and a baggy t-shirt. And I go, "You motherfucker!" And I charge it. Now imagine you are on the radio in the morning talking about somebody in a derogatory manner. Several hours later, he kicks open the door to your dressing room, madder than hell, and charges at you, which I did, slamming him against the wall. Howard is wetting his corduroys. And then I start laughing. And Howard's like, "What? You're not mad?" I said, "Fuck no, Jesus Christ, man." I mean, I make fun of people all the time. Say your worst. Trust me, I've heard it all. I've heard it all, and I continue to hear it all. So Howard's like, "Whoa!" So we start talking. Turns out we're about the same age. Turns out and the people in the room, it's Fred, Gary, I think Jackie's there. Actually, I think Jackie Martling was there too at that time, and Robin Quivers, who were all freaked out when I burst in, but then they're all like, relax immediately because clearly I'm not pissed off. And we start talking, and we're about the same age. We're both married. We both have a kid. We both live on the North Shore of Long Island. We grew up in the town next to each other. Turns out we hung out at the same playground and used to see each other. Howard grew up in a black community, and I grew up in Baldwin. The town next was like lily white. They had one white guy, we had one black guy. So I would be had my big, split in the middle, part in the middle afro, brown afro back then, massive, playing paddleball at Coesneck Park, and there was this really geeky tall white guy, the only white guy playing basketball with the black guys. And we used to see each other. Oh, but he didn't have the small afro back then. He had really long hair. So that's why he stood out even more. He was really tall. The only white guy with the black guy had really long hair, and I had this big afro. And we would see each other, acknowledge each other, but didn't know that years later I would be Dee Snider, he'd be Howard Stern, and we would meet. So we connect. We exchange phone numbers. Hey, this is cool. Let's hang out together. We just hit it off immediately. Okay? The next time I run into Howard, and I think we may have communicated a little bit, Twisted Sister is over in, and this is pretty famous Howard Stern stuff, but Twisted Sister is over in England doing the British Invasion for MTV. And on a night off, we decided, we just went to a quiet restaurant called Break for the Border. It was a Monday night. We had off, just the band, our security, our producer, our tour managers, and just went there to have a quiet meal until the door flies open, and in walks Howard Stern, his entire crew, a film crew, and I think 25 listeners. He was doing a contest go with Howard Stern to London. He was broadcasting live from London with his winners. They come into the quiet restaurant club, and now all bets are off. It's just the party breaks out. They've got a stage set up. The contest winners won by playing song parodies. So there's musicians. So we're on stage. They're on stage. During the night, things got crazy. This band 66 Sputnik came in, not knowing who 66 Sputnik is. While we're doing a jam, one of them threw, this was a Mexican place, one of those wooden taco bowls at Howard. Glances off his head. I drop the mic because this is my world here. I jump off the stage, go charging after this guy's climbing over tables, diving after 66 Sputnik. They go running out of the place. They tear us out of the place. The next day, I go to do the Howard Stern show. I get a standing ovation. And Howard Stern has played this clip pretty often. There's no lies here. If anything, I'm kind of playing it down. And Howard declares himself as my bitch. He's never seen anybody stand up for his fight for his dignity. I was just, itching for a fight. And, B, he's never seen anything like this. Him being a person that sort of recoils from confrontation, and me, especially at that time, being a person who goes into confrontation. He's running out of the building. I'm running in. So at that point, our relationship as friends and as a regular on the Howard Stern show the deal is sealed. When the tour winds down, that Come Out and Play tour, which we were wrapping up in Europe at that time, I go back home for an extended time off, and I become a semi-regular on the Howard Stern show. I'm going on sometimes 3 times a week, and I would go to we live near each other. I'd go to his house, and I get there at like 5 in the morning, something like that. 5 in the morning, ride the limo in with him. He meditates. He's a big transcendental meditation guy. And I would just sit in the car. We get there, and I do the show. And back in those days, it was like 5 hours. I'm talking about, this is 1986 now. This is 86, going into 87. I am, doing the show regularly. Be there the whole 5 hours. Playing parties is, the Howard Stern birthday parties, any kind of event. Plus, we're hanging out as people. Our kids are hanging out together. Our wives are hanging out together. We're hanging out together. We have become fast friends. And one of the first things I said to Howard when I saw him physically was, why do you look like that? I mean, remember, he has got, if you've seen any old pictures of him, it took a lot of poetic license with the movie. By 84, 85, Howard has his rock and roll look down. No. 84, 85, he still looks like an accountant. And I go, you're on the air. You sound like a pirate, but you look like an accountant. He's like, well, how should I look? I'm like, well, Suzette and I will show you. And Suzette and I proceed to literally dress this guy, groom this guy, get some sunglasses so your nose doesn't look so big, dude. Grow your hair out, man. You need it short for the job? Grow the hair. Rock it, man. I used to have long hair. Don't tell me how many people I used to have. Fuck, I used to. Grow your damn hair. Literally giving him T-shirts, jackets, shit. Suzette would take him out shopping, grooming him, dressing him. And this is something he gives total credit to Suzette and to me, at least for that 80s look. Ralph came in the 90s and started to change him to a more grunge look, modernize his look. And at that point, our friendship had waned. At that point. So, he went for a new look. But when he first started to look rocked out, with that classic Howard Stern look, that was all Suzette and Dee. Holding his hand and teaching him how to rock it. Rock star DJ. And really was kind of the final piece for him, giving him a look that matched his sound, so that when he made personal appearances, there was a connection between how he sounded on the air and how he looked, But be that as it may, we are great friends at this point. And Howard is the first person. Now, around 87, now 85, 86, my career starts taking a nosedive. Bad. 87, the last Twisted Sister album. Tour ends abruptly. I quit the band. I'm going through a lot of changes. 88, 89, I'm going through my first bankruptcy. I'm starting to lose. Things are really falling apart. And if you don't know the reality of my story, read my memoirs, Shut Up and Give Me the Mic. And it tells you the whole story. I fell dramatically, tragically. I lost everything by the early 90s. Everything, I was starting over. But back to Howard. Howard is the first guy to acknowledge me and recognize that I have more to offer than a couple of catchy anthems. Now, mind you, you hardcore fans out there screaming at your laptop, we believed in you. No, I know you guys are there. But the masses really just saw a couple videos, couple songs, crazy makeup, and they wrote us off, Now, I did say when talking about the Senate hearings of the PMRC thing, that the first time people started to look at me differently, and that was a subtlety. Here was a guy who started championing me, and when my life fell apart, literally went to and pitched me for jobs at radio stations because he thought I'd be great on the radio. Because I was great on his show, where I learned so much. Literally getting me an agent, getting me a voiceover agent. It was because of his appearances on the show that voiceover people heard me and started showing interest in me doing commercial work, which I did. I mean, I've done a lot of commercial work, but I've also I've done documentary narrations. I was the voice of MSNBC in like 2000. I was the guy going, Hardball with Chris Matthews, tonight at 8 on MSNBC. In the Line of Fire with Ashley Banfield, tonight at 7 on MS. That was me. So I've got new careers. Howard championed my Strangeland script. I say that the indie studio that made it, were huge Stern fans, and I think my relationship with Stern really helped put it over the edge. That and the fact that the lead producer, Larry Meister's pet wolf, didn't attack me when I went to meet with him. Apparently, his pet wolf attacks everybody big guys wearing black, and his wolf just walked over to me and, licked my hand. So anyway, but this is, I'm being, at this point in the late 80s, I'm being written off by everybody. And I've got this one stalwart friend who is passionately campaigning for me, telling everybody this guy is worth more. And when my career fell apart and I went through a moment where I said, I guess you won't want me on the show anymore, Howard. Howard's like, what are you talking about, man? He goes, I get offered the biggest stars in the world. I'd rather have somebody on the air who's got something to say than someone who's a big name. He says to me, it's not about what you are. It's not who you are. It's what you are. I always get confused with that statement, but you know what I mean. He says, I have turned some of the biggest stars have just been complete duds. He says, that's why I'll have it, have these, what they used to call them, the whack pack. These interesting characters. They're not famous. He made them famous. But I'd rather have somebody interesting on the air than someone boring and famous. So I continue to do the Howard Stern Show, continue to get his support, and continue to have this great relationship with him. And I love this guy for that. I love him for being a friend. I love him for championing me. I love him for believing in me. I love him. I will always love Howard Stern. Now, we moved in the 90s after the first bankruptcy. We moved down to Florida. And that was, we disconnected, Howard and me, because I was living down there for a few years with the family. Now we each have 3 kids. We're still friends, but, there's not that going to the show all the time. There's not that hanging out thing because we're not socializing. I don't move back to New York till like 1995. And I am in worse shape economically than ever. Come back to New York in hope of getting some kind of work. And trying to invent new careers for myself in radio, in television, writing screenplays. So I told you about all these things Howard did for me, but when I come back in 1990, moved down, I'm trying to think of the years, 91, it's like 94. I don't have any of this going for me yet, but I can't find anything. My career is just completely falling apart. Grunge is coming in. I can't get any work down in Florida other than day work. Which I eventually wound up doing in New York, but that's, again, part of another story. And I come back to New York, and now I am hitting the pavement, again, with Howard's help, going for voiceover auditions, start booking voiceover commercials. That started bailing me out. Radio work. I got my first, I did my first radio show. I got an agent through Howard. David Katz works for Don Buchwald, worked for Don Buchwald. And, David, when I sit down with him, I said, look, I'm looking to get into radio. Howard thinks it'll be great. He goes, Dee, you sound great on the air. You're a natural, but you don't just walk off of a Coliseum stage into a 6-figure or 7-figure radio job. You got to pay your dues. And I am on the balls of my ass at this point, and my music at this point, grunge is in. Grunge is coming in. My band's broken up. I can't get arrested. I had a band called Desperado. That deal went south. I'm just really I said, look, I will do whatever I got to do, which totally impressed David Katz. And I went and got a Sunday night, late night metal show, on the east end of Long Island, broadcasting the fish, as they say. I'm on from like midnight to 1 a.m. or 11, whatever it was. It was late. And I'd go do the show. Did everything. I'd work with I'd speak to all the radio reps and the promotional guys. I would do every single aspect, engineering, programming, everything on the show, all by myself, being paid literally next to nothing. The money I got didn't pay for the gas it took me to get to the radio station each week. But I go, I do it, and it winds up leading to me getting a show called The House of Hair. Now remember, Howard is the guy who got me the agent. Howard is the guy who's campaigning for me to get work. So when The House of Hair first goes on the air, and it's still on the air 18 years later, that's recorded the 938th show this week, I have 35 stations. And one of the biggest ones, if not the biggest, is in Chicago. No, one of the biggest. Detroit was there. The amazing Riff, WRIF. I've been with me since day one. Some great stations. WHJY in Providence, WIOT in Toledo, Ohio. Some great stations. But Chicago is one of the biggest. And in order for me to get on the show, I need to interview and get with Mancow. Now, I had been on the Mancow show and had a great time on the Mancow show, but Mancow was upset with me because I did not know, remember, I'm out on the road touring, that there was a war between Mancow and Howard Stern. When I was touring with Widowmaker, I had gone through Chicago, and I was doing the Mancow show, and Mancow said, I go on the show, and he said, listen, now this is, okay, this is where we disagree. He goes, listen, do me a favor before we go on the air. He goes, I know you're friends with Howard Stern. He says, I'm a big fan too. He says these words to me. He goes, but please don't talk about him on the air. Now, this is just professional courtesy. You never talk about another person's radio show while you're on someone else's show. You just don't do that ever. So I'm like, hey, Cal, of course, not a problem. I would never do that. He goes, great, man. He says, I think he's great, but whatever. When I come back off the road, I go back to do the Stern show. This is the mid-'90s now. And I hear them talking about Mancow. Gary's talking about Mancow. And I said, Mancow, I'm always a big Howard Stern fan. And Gary goes, what? And I said, I just did Mancow. He told me he's a big fan of the show. I have no idea there's a war going on between these two guys. Well, Howard starts a campaign playing clips of Mancow, trashing Howard Stern, and then finishing with it. Then why does Dee Snider say that when he was on the Mancow show, Mancow said he's a big fan of Howard Stern? Well, they got mileage out of that with this war. And as it turns out, Mancow now is denying ever saying these words to me. I'm a liar, and is trashing the shit out of me in Chicago. So if I want to launch my show, I've got to go on the air and face off with Mancow. I go on the air, Mancow and his crew, and it's like 5 against 1, and I go down there and hold my own. I do not back down from my position, but at the same time, I also expressed that I did not know I was throwing a grenade. I had no idea they had this issue in this relationship. I wasn't deliberately trying to fuck them, but so we went back and forth for a while. And Mancow, to his credit, said, you got a reputation for. I said, Cal, look, you've been shit talking me for a year in Chicago. I said, you've said every nasty thing you possibly could say about me. What a loser and washed up and, hey, wannabe, here's one for you, about me. And have I come after you? I said, I acknowledge that my words have caused you problems. Quid pro quo. I'm not going to allow you to defend yourself and go back at me for something I did to you. He goes, that's true. And I says, I hear you're a guy who's known for going after people. I go, oh, yeah. I said, I would easily get on a plane and come find you. He goes, all right, fair enough. Agree to disagree. I'm cool with you having the show on the air. Okay. I get back home, and, Howard and I, we don't talk every single day anymore, and we don't talk all the time, but I call Howard from time to time. And after like a third or fourth call, I realize Howard is not responding. So I call and I'm leaving a message, and I'm like, hey, man, this is like my fourth call to you, and you haven't called me back. I'm starting to think something's wrong. Are you not returning? And the phone picks up, and Howard, back in those days, it was that kind of voicemail. We're old. He picks up, and he goes, I've been mad at you. I'm going, you're mad at me? He goes, yeah. I said, why are you mad at me? He goes, you went on the Mancow show. Now, Howard had told me he never minded. He says, look, years ago, He says, I don't care whose radio show you do. That's the way you promote your stuff. You're an entertainer. I will never stop you from being on anybody else's show. Just don't not do mine. And that's a reasonable and fair thing to do. Well, guess what? Now Howard's starting to change. And Mancow is is a thorn in his side and an annoyance to him. And the fact that now one of his best friends is on the Mancow show, which I had to do. I said, Howard, it was the only way I could get on, to launch my show. And he's like, oh, I didn't realize that. You should have told me. I said, well, I didn't know you were mad at me because you didn't tell me. This is classic Stern. He won't say it to you. He won't confront you. He'll just, he just stops talking to you. And so, tree in the forest. How the hell how am I supposed to know you're mad at me if you don't tell me? I just thought you just, were busy. So now I'm back in his good graces. Okay. So we're friends again. When I return, I will get into when we go wrong again and when we go wrong again and why we're not talking. Well, he's not talking to me anymore because I love that guy.
Everyone please rise. Court is in session.
Hi, it's Judge Janine Pirro, and I want to invite you all to check out my brand new podcast, Due Process with Judge Janine. I've got the background and experience to bring you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Join me and my co-host, Terry Trespicio, as we cover the hottest legal stories and breaking news. And remember, you do have the right to an attorney, and I'm giving you your due process. So be sure to download Due Process with me, Judge Janine Pirro, every Monday at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com.
So now Howard Stern and I are friends and everything's back to normal. Okay. Howard continues to champion me, and I get offered a morning show. My own morning show in Hartford, Connecticut, but it's in a Howard Stern market. So immediately, red flag, I go, all right, I'll be going up against Howard in the morning. So I call Howard, and I say, Howard, listen, I got offered a show, but it's in Connecticut. It's doing mornings. You're on it. He goes, Dee, look, you got to do what you got to do. Those are his words. I said, listen, Howard, you are the reason why I have a radio career. You were pulling me out of, I'm going to get a 6-figure salary out of this new gig I've got now. I'm coming back. I go, you're the reason. I want to give you a commission. You are the agent. Commission my show. 10% is yours. I wouldn't have it without you. He goes, Dee, I don't want your money. I don't need your money. I'm happy to do it for you, man. I'm like, well, I just know that how much I owe you, how much I appreciate what you've done for me, and thank you so much. I start doing my show. Howard stops talking to me. I don't know why he stops talking to me. I'm on my radio show in his market. I'm saying, listen, I say this straight out first day. I'm a Howard Stern fan. Everything I know about doing morning radio, I learned from Howard Stern. If I was living in this market, I wouldn't listen to me. I'd listen to Howard Stern. This is what I literally say. And I say, I'm just trying to carve out my own audience. 20 share is a huge number. There are 520 shares in every market. So I was trying to find my own audience, my own voice. Dee Snider radio launches, and people are referring to it as Howard Light. A lot of the same sensibilities, but without the lesbians and without the misogyny. Howard has a 10% female audience. I have a 50% female audience. I'm trying to find my own mark. I'm not trying to I'm not copying any of Howard's bits. But certainly the inspiration of the morning show format, I learned it from him, sitting with him, watching him, studying him, and he's helped me build a career. But for some reason, Howard stops talking to me again, and I don't know why. And he can't have me on the air, but he's still playing my best ofs on his show while I'm on the air in his market in Hartford. And then in Richmond, Virginia, I was on in Richmond where he got kicked out of, but I'm on in Richmond, Virginia, the number one show in Richmond. So cut to years later when I'm off the air in Hartford and Richmond, Bubba the Love Sponge comes in, and Howard goes over to Sirius, and decides that I'm going to be on Sirius Radio. He comes clean one day on the show and talks about him being mad at me and why he's been mad at me. Now, I have no idea because he's not returning my phone calls. Well, he says on the show that it's because I did the radio in Hartford, in his market. Robin, who knows the whole situation, she goes, but didn't he call and ask your permission? And yes, he did. And didn't you give it to him? Yes, I did. And didn't he offer you 10% of his income? Yes, he did. And you said no. Yes, he did. He goes, then why should he not do the show, and why should you be mad at him? He goes, well, he should have just known better. Well, everybody on the show, I mean, Fred and then it's Artie. Artie was one of the biggest voices of, thank you, Artie, one of the biggest voices of reason, because he couldn't understand. He said, I can't see where this guy has done anything wrong to you, and yet you've spurned him and cast him out. And Howard admits, well, I'm fucked up and I've got these mental problems and so now I'm back again. And there's a whole confrontation that came down with me and Bubba the Love Sponge, because Bubba took over my air shift and is trashing me on the air. And any of you listeners are serious, Howard says, if Dee's going to be on Sirius, I need you and Bubba to make the piece. So I go down there. They've literally got security, because the shit that Bubba Love Sponge has been saying about me, these are the things you kill people for. And there's no reason for it. I'm no longer on the air, as Howard pointed out. Because Bubba says to Howard, oh, well, you always do that. You always go after your competitors. And Robin goes, he's not on the air. We only go after people who are on the air, not people who are out or not broadcasting. You were just personal attacking this guy because I had a popular radio show. The reason why it ended was a difference with management, not because my numbers. I had really good numbers in Hartford, and that's why I went off the air. And they brought Bubba in, and his numbers went to nowhere. As a matter of fact, in the debate, because I had security there, so it couldn't be a fight between me and Bubba. Bubba presents I present a letter saying that they wanted to hire me back. Bubba presents numbers of how bad my ratings were, which I pointed out were actually Bubba's own ratings. His producer had printed out Bubba's ratings and brought them in as evidence of my bad ratings. They were Bubba's bad ratings. I mean, Bubba's show was so terrible, and I get along great with Bubba now, by the way. But in Hartford, I mean, what happened? He's replacing a really popular air personality, me. So it really wasn't he didn't have a fair chance. People were so resentful that they took me off the air. I really had like the number 2 show in the marketplace. Howard was number 1, had an 18 share. I had a 12 share. So I was doing great in the market, had my audience, was finding my audience. And, so people were resentful. So it wasn't fair to Bubba. But Bubba brings in his own numbers to condemn me, but winds up shooting himself in the foot with it. So now Howard and I are friends again. But at that time, now I'm starting to get the idea of how this works. And I say my son Jesse came with me. And I said, and we're in the green room waiting to go in because it's like this big thing, me and Bubba the Love Sponge facing off. And Bubba comes in with his whole crew. I'm there by myself. I'm saying, let's go, you fuck. I don't need a fucking crew of people to back me up. So anyway, I said to my son Jesse, who's now full grown, he's with me, and he goes, I said, son, this will be the tell whether or not Howard and I are truly better. And he says, what's the tell, Dad? I said, when I did the show, Howard always say, hey, why don't you stay around for the news? They would always keep me on for the rest of the show, have me sit in on the news. I learned so much doing those newscasts with Robin and Howard and back then Jackie Martling and Fred and Gary. What a great time. Stuttering John. I mean, the whole crew. I had such a great time back then. I said, if he asks me to stay, we're good. If he says, well, it's great seeing you, Dee, and sends me off like a regular guest, I said, this is word service right here. This is just, he's fixing it, but it's not fixed. I go in, have this huge episode with Bubba, which some of you may have heard on Best of Stern. It's pretty classic. When it finishes, Well, Dee, it was great seeing you. Great reconnecting with you again. Look forward to having you back on the show. Goodbye. And I leave. And I know damn well this is the tell. And truth be told, Howard and I, we don't have the same relationship. It's not where we were. And my career was derailed. In fairness to Howard, we were on our same trajectory back in the late 80s. But when the 90s came and my life career fell, his just kept going and going and going and going. And now he's divorced from Allison. He's hanging out with celebrities. He's dating supermodels. He's partying. One of the things we got along with, we didn't get high. Neither of us partied. Neither of us got high. We were married dudes. Now he's living a single lifestyle. And I'm still married, dude. I'm still going home. We're not the same people anymore. It's understandable. But at the same time, something was lost. In relationships, something was lost. So now I'm at Sirius doing Fangoria Radio, a weekly show for a few years. And, occasionally I'm doing Howard and but it's definitely not the same. But he's promoting me. I'm promoting him. He's supporting me. I'm supporting him. And, and it's social and it's cool. It's nice to be, to have my friend back in some capacity. So Howard gets married, is getting married. And on one of the episodes, Robin asks Howard why he didn't invite me and Suzette to the wedding. And Howard goes, and now on the air, this is the passive-aggressive Howard, because Howard could say this on the phone to me. He goes, I feel really bad about it. I didn't have enough room on the list. And, and I want to invite him. He goes, well, why don't you call him and tell him that? Well, I just feel guilty. He says, you can invite him now. It seems last minute. And now it's sort of an afterthought. And now it's insulting. So this is everything he wants to say to me. He's saying on the air, knowing full well I'm going to hear about it. And you know what? We didn't know his wife. We only met her once, Suzette and I. When in any divorce, people you've been friends with couples and they get divorced, it's always awkward because we were friends with Allison too. So Suzette had this sense of loyalty to Allison that she felt guilty hanging out with Howard's, new girlfriend at that time, Beth. So we didn't think make a big deal about it, and we weren't really expecting, and Howard at this point is inviting all these celebs and stuff like that, and I'm not back on top yet. So, I gotta get it, and so there it goes. I get interviewed for a magazine, a local magazine by a guy named Chauncey. I can't remember his last name, but some of you Stern listeners know Chauncey. Chauncey was a sort of a Howard Stern regular who, unbeknownst to me, because I'm not listening, because I don't have Sirius, because Sirius, check this out. They bring me on Sirius to broadcast, and they tell me I have to buy my own equipment and I have to pay my own monthly fees, but they want me to listen to those shows regularly. But I'm on the station. So just just like I'm not doing it, just to make a point. I'm not doing it. So I'm not hearing the Howard Stern show anymore. So I don't know if Chauncey has had a falling out. I interview with Chauncey about something, and Howard comes up. Well, I sing Howard's praises as I'm doing right now, how much I love the guy, how much the guy's done for me, how much he's meant to my career, how much he's always been for me, how he's one of those few people who stood by me through thick and thin. And he asked me, well, are you bothered by the fact that you weren't invited to the wedding? Now, I will say that subconsciously now I realize that I was. It hurt me a little bit. I said on surface it didn't, but it must have. And I said these words as part of an extensive interview. I said no. I said the same thing I said to you. No, we really don't know Beth, and we're friends with Allison, and it's a little weird. And besides, Howard's socializing with people now that he wouldn't have given the time of day to 20 years ago. Well, that was the headline. That was the big thing. And Howard, it comes out, this is a local paper, but the Howard fans online, they cheered me. Finally, somebody said it. Finally. And Howard sends me a terse email, tell me how fucked up I am for saying something like that. And you know what? It was wrong. Flat out wrong. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have said it. taken in context, it's not nearly as bad as it came off but it was not cool to say. He sends me a terse email telling me off. I immediately pick up the phone to call him because emails for pussies. All right. I talk to him. He won't answer the phone. I send him emails. He won't answer. He won't answer the emails. He won't respond. And again, he's mad at you. He talks about you. He's not mad at you. It's like he's really mad at you. It's like you don't exist. And now I fall off the face of the earth. Again, for the third time. When anything comes up, and now my popularity is growing. I'm on the Celebrity Apprentice. He goes through the whole list he's a huge Apprentice fan. He goes through the list of everybody on the show, and he gets to my name, and he goes, and Dee Snider, everybody knows Dee Snider. That's it. When I was in Rock of Ages, and Robin, who everybody else, still loves me. Robin goes, hey, a good buddy of yours is joining the cast of Rock of Ages. Who, John Stamos? No, Dee Snider. I'm sure it'll be great. And that's it. Like, he won't take the bait. He won't talk about me. Still playing me on Best Of. But that's it. And that was years ago. He's never spoken to me again. And it saddens me. It breaks my heart. He won't take my calls. But you know what Suzette says to me? If he wants to go out with you again, you can't go out with him anymore. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, it's like another woman. He gets mad at you like a woman. He likes you, then he doesn't like you, he's not talking to you, and he won't tell you why, and then he tells you that, then you find out why, and he makes up with you, and then he's mad at you. This is his third time. She says, I love Howard D, but you may not go out with him anymore. So that's what my wife says. I don't know if I'll have the opportunity. So some people may be saying, didn't I see you on America's Got Talent a couple years ago? Yeah. I get a call. America's Got Talent wants me on the show. They want me to sing. We're not going to take it. It was one of the contestants. I think, well, this is Howard's show. He's reaching out to me. This is passive aggressive, like we won't talk about it, but I'm like, awesome. Of course I'm there. I'll pay my own way to get there. What are you kidding me? This is awesome. I get there the day of the show. They quickly have me pull up at a back door, sneak me in, and they go, it's a surprise. And I said, what's a surprise? You being here. I said, who's the surprise for? Your friend. Howard? This is the thing with Howard. Because he doesn't tell anybody he's mad at you, everybody thinks we're still friends. They're still hearing me on Best Of. You people walk up to me on the street all the time. Nobody knows. We don't talk in years. So I'm like, oh my God, yeah, this is going to be a surprise, all right. Say, listen, we want you to sneak up behind Howard, tap him on the shoulder, and surprise him on the TV show. I'm like, oh boy, which is exactly what I did. And what did Howard do? He's like, hey, big welcoming face. I go out on stage. I perform the song. He's the first one standing ovation, sings my praises, cheering. I come off the stage. Howard's backstage. We see each other. We talk. We chat. It's like old friends, small talk this, small talk that. We're walking away, and my manager goes, so it's finally fixed. You guys are together again? I said, oh, no, we're not. He goes, what do you mean? I go, not me, man. I goes, he would never confront me on this. I said, I know by the type of talk, it was small talk. It wasn't substantive. It wasn't, hey, man, give a call. There was no give a call. Let's get together. Let's have dinner with the girls. It was just, how are the kids? How's this? How's that? You look great. Blah, blah, blah. Gone. I said, I will never see him again. He said, I think you're wrong. Get back, try calling him, no answer. Try emailing him, no answer. I never heard from him again. I'm sorry, Howard, for saying those words. They were wrong. They were unfair. The two of us came up together, and the truth be told, if I had stayed on the same trajectory as you, we would be connected. We'd both be divorced, by the way. We'd both be divorced. We would have stayed together in simpatico, whatever the word is. We would have been connected. Our career paths changed. You continued on. You went one way. I went another way. It was wrong for me to say those words in any medium. And it breaks my heart that a person who stood by me through it all, that I hurt in that way. So he'll never hear these words. He'll never listen. He'll never reach out. He'll never acknowledge. He won't allow me to acknowledge. And but I owe that man a lot. All right, I told the story. That's all for this week's Snider Comments. See you next week.